All right, today we're going to be working on some quickie steps that do not work. We're going to get underneath, take a look at the electrical connections, try to make sense of what's going on, and then throw a part at it and see if that's going to get it fixed. So let's get under here and take a look at things. Okay, we're set up underneath the steps here, and we're going to start doing some troubleshooting. So first thing we're going to look at, we've got a 4-pin connector. We're going to be able to disconnect that and check for power and ground. You want to have your door closed to make sure you get a ground signal. Over here we've got a ground wire that's going to the case on the steps themselves, and then we've got a larger ground wire that's coming out of the control module. That's going to go over to the frame of your camper. So what I'm going to do first is take out my multimeter and set it to ohms. Put that up here. There we go. So we're going to go to the little omega sign here, and then we're just going to check that we've got a good ground, and then we're going to clip to that ground, and then we'll just use that throughout the testing process. So I'm going to clip this over here to a ground bolt. So anywhere you have exposed metal cannot be painted over. You don't want to use a rusty bolt or something like that. And I'm just going to take the other end of this lead and clip it to my black lead on my multimeter. All right, so I'm going to take my red lead. I'm going to go to the ground right here on the case or the step itself. So I'm getting 0.01, so that shows me I've got very good continuity to the ground of the RV. So that's a good connection right there. And then I will go to my other case ground and check that. I've got 0.7, 0.6. So that's going to be within limits to have good continuity. So the ground check is good. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and switch to my DC voltage. That's going to be the one with the solid line and the dashed line underneath of it, signifying the direct current. Okay, so going to my 4-way connector, I've got 4 wires. I've got a yellow wire that's coming from the ignition, and so when that is turned on at the ignition, that's going to send a signal to this to tell the steps to retract. So I'm going to go ahead and check that pin first. I have no voltage there, so that tells me that's good. If I did have voltage, I would have to go back and examine that circuit a little bit better. The next wire I have is a large red wire. This is going to be the 12 volts that's always going to be present. So that's there. And now I'm going to look at this brown wire. Now we're going to skip that. I'm going to do this white wire. And I should have 12 volts. This white wire is from the door switch. So I've got 12 volts going into the pin, or rather the connector, and that's from the door switch by the door. The last wire, again, this is a ground wire that's through your latch pickup or your magnetic catch on your door. I don't know if that makes sense. I'll show it to you in a minute. We're going to go back to ohms for this one because we're going to make sure we've got a ground signal. In my case, I will not have a ground because I have the door open right now. I'm going to go out, I'm going to close the door, and then we'll see if that's going to change. Okay, so with the door closed, we now have continuity to ground on that brown pin or brown wire. So that shows us that all the connections to our 4-way plug are good, and we've also verified we've got 2 good grounds on the circuit here. In this case, the door, or rather the steps, should extend. However, they're not doing anything. I can take the plug off of the motor for the steps, and I can also check for any positive current going to it by going back to DC. Now this is a reversing motor, so I would have positive current on one side or the other. So on this side I do not have any positive current, and on the other side nothing there. So that tells me that since I don't hear anything, I don't hear clicking, it tells me this module is likely dead. So I've gone ahead and ordered a new one, and I'm just going to slave it in. So I'm just going to do a temporary install. We're going to see if we can get a little better result with the new control module. Okay, no way to get the mount for the camera down this low, so pardon my shaking hand. Here is the ground that's on the steps themselves. So we're going to remove this ground, and then we're going to come over here to our other larger green wire. We're going to be removing this ground. As you can see in my troubleshooting process, I have taken sandpaper and cleaned up that mounting surface to make sure I'm getting good continuity, which we showed you earlier. So I'm going to get these two replaced, or rather I'm going to remove the old ones. I'm going to hook up the new module with those grounds. I'm not going to mount it yet, and then we're going to plug it in and test it out. So let's get that done. Okay, so we're going to take the new module connector to the motor, leaving that old one out of the way. We're going to go ahead and just hook that up. Once we get it lined up there, let that click in. So the next thing we're going to be doing is connecting up our four-way connector. Before we do that, we want to make sure that everything is clear of the steps in the event that they do extend. Play it safe and just be prepared in case these things do extend, that we don't have anything in the way to get caught or ripped off. All right, so success on getting these steps to extend just by kind of hooking up this module without doing a full install, so we can test it and make sure that's going to work for us. So now that the steps are extended, I am going to go ahead and unplug the module so that they don't retract on me, and then I'm going to take the old module out and put the new module in a full install. So we're going to get that taken care of next. All right, so here's a little pro tip for you. So on your grounds, put a bead of this sealant around them to protect them from all the elements and stuff. This big old glob. There you go. All right, so now we've got the module installed. Wiring's pretty cleaned up, everything's connected, and it's fixed. So thanks for watching.